Ready to roll?
Yeah, let's get it done.
Jarrod Wynn, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
It's always a nice little blessing to be able to sit down not only with a great guest, but with good mates.
Absolutely.
You know, and you become sort of friends with everyone you sit down with, or at least in most cases on the pod. But you don't always get to sit down with someone who you're friends with before.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's a nice feeling.
Someone that you've already got a little bit of a relationship with.
100%. And it's funny because I often speak of around the time that we met each other.
When
because
was that?
it's
A long time ago.
June 2020.
A year into Run Club.
Yeah, well, like pivotal time in my life story, essentially, because running become
Is that when you
a big part
started
of the
running?
picture. Yeah. So I remember, here's a story for you. So I remember sitting at home one Sunday, just being a fat shit on the lounge.
As you do.
You know, it's called Never Lazy Run Club now. I was lazy for quite a while.
Absolutely. Very much not active.
And I remember sitting on the lounge and seeing a guy that I used to go to school with, who I hadn't seen for years, hadn't seen his face pop up.
Yeah.
Connor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Connor was running with you guys on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And at the time, like the crew was pretty small, you know,
Yeah, it
like
was
maybe
still-
a group of
we
10
s-
guys
yeah, we
or
still
something.
get like 10 people back
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
And I'm like looking at this crew of guys running, and I remember just being like a little bit like, oh shit, those guys just ran 5Ks at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And people probably hear that now and go,
Yeah.
5Ks. But at the time,
Everyone's doing that, bro.
yeah, everyone's
It's a
doing
Run
that.
Club era, don't you?
Yeah. Well, but at the time, like it was rare.
Yeah.
There was like a rare breed of humans who ran early in the morning
Every
in
morning.
5K.
Yeah, it was dead down there every morning. Like, there was no one.
It's a different time, man.
Yeah.
It feels like a different life because life has changed so much in between.
Yeah, we said June 2020. That was like just into COVID, right?
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
into COVID. And so I remember seeing it and going, oh, that's interesting, but fuck running 5Ks on a Sunday morning. And then, you know, you bump into a few people who are like, come down, check it out.
Yeah.
And I just remember the first 4 weeks were so challenging, like so difficult. And the funniest story for me, and looking back on that, the funniest memory, is it was probably the third week that I'd come to Run Club, sort of struggling through,
Yeah.
but like managing to finish 5Ks, and you know, you're building a bit of confidence
Yeah.
and you know, enjoying the vibe of like catching up with a bunch of lads and having a run and having a chat. And I still remember someone, I can't remember who it was, said, we run Wednesday nights as well. We're running
That
a
was when we were doing
half.
on Wednesday nights, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. And we did that 5K, and we'd just do like, we'd have different start times, and you'd jump on for whatever.
Jump on,
if you wanted to do
exactly.
5, you'd jump on for the last 5. If you wanted to do 10, you'd jump on for the last 10. And we'd just hit that north-south loop over and over again.
100%. And so I remember coming to join for the last 5 because I wasn't
Yeah.
doing any more than that. And I still remember that was a big step to run twice in the
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
because I was still pretty sore from the Sunday.
Yeah.
And so I get down there and we're just joking before off camera about how I used to have really bad vision. I'm standing there with Joey Plum.
And that was dark at that point.
It was dark, really dark. It's
That was a
middle of
weird
winter.
one. That was probably the stupidest way to do it as well. Like, get people to jump in as you go versus like,
Versus-
because you do versus all start together and drop off whenever you want.
Well, because there's that nervous weight of like,
Well,
have I
and then it's
missed
like,
him?
yeah,
Are they still coming?
did they go faster or?
Yeah, exactly. And so I remember standing at the kiosk, kind of like looking in the distance, and I could see through the parting of the rocks just down there
Oh
at
yeah, from that,
Wollongong,
from that south.
coming
loop.
from the South Loop. This group of probably like 10 guys emerge, all with no shirts on, but I was like watching the pace, and I was like, nah, that's not them. They're 16 Ks in. They wouldn't be running that quick. And then I clocked you as you were running past, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'll
fuck,
better
that's
get ready.
them. And I remember thinking, I had this illusion in my head that I'd tack on, like, as I'm driving there that night, I'm like, I'll tack onto the back of the pack. The boys are probably down and out because they've run 16 by
I'll
now.
just cruise. A
few bum taps.
Yeah.
Build the, build the bloody morale.
I'll be there to support them.
Yeah, I'll be the hype guy.
Yeah.
I remember finishing dead last and like hanging on for dear life. And I remember going home for dinner at my mum's house.
Yeah.
And like I was cramping all over the shop.
Just like you're walking like a fucking cowboy.
I was like, these guys are built different. But ultimately it was the start of,
Yeah.
what's been like a life-changing experience
So
for me.
was that like the first, like your first run was like with us? Like you hadn't run much before that at all?
I don't even know if I've told you this, but so I used to run short distance as a kid, like hundreds and 200s,
Yeah.
and was a state champion sprinter.
Do like your track work and that.
But hated anything over 400 meters. That was endurance for me, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember like being 9 or 10, and I used to run like 2K with my dad here or there, or when I was 16, I'd get on and just do a 2K sort of sprint workout. But it had been 7 years since I'd laced on a pair of sneakers to run.
Yeah.
So 2 days before I come to my first, what was Active Boys at the time, I had these old white Ultra Boosts with holes in the bottom.
As you did.
And I was like, maybe I'll go for like a 2K just to see how I pull up.
Yeah. Don't rip the band-aid off with this group of people.
Well, I got 800 meters in and like had to stop, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going for a swim. Like no resilience in me whatsoever.
No dog in you.
Absolutely no dog. No mongrel, no dog.
No mongrel had been established.
Exactly. And I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm making it through on the Sunday. Yeah. And the only way I made it through on the Sunday was because I was driving down with Zach Bids. And Zach said to me, he goes, fuck, I'm going to smoke you.
And like, no.
I was like, he probably is, to be fair.
Yeah.
But then he went down with shin splints at the Pucky's entrance.
I remember that. And he was fucking way out in front the whole time.
And you know what the crazy thing about Zachy is, though? He's just a fit bastard.
I still remember when he showed up with no shoes that one time, and he's like,
that was his birthday run.
He was like, no shoes are working for me. Ran through Pucky's, no shoes.
No shoes.
Absolute mad lad.
Elite. And dropped down to 320s on the last K. And I was just like, that's madness. But the funny thing was, seeing him go down and running past him and realising if I just hang on, I claim the glory.
I've just got to finish.
Yeah, I can't be a do not finish.
No.
Or do not finish.
No.
Like, I've just got to finish and I'm better than him.
Yeah.
And so that's what got me through.
That's it.
But yeah, it was for me, it was ultimately like the coffee at the end, the conversation. At a time in my life where I hadn't had a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like I'd come through like a different period of my life where I'd been like, at the time, like a little bit lost, you know, trying to figure it out. So it was like a really forming period, and ultimately...
Give you that good little constant that you can kind of hang on to.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just, you know, people talk about like why do people change and why do people make progress? It's a whole lot easier when you've got a bunch of people who are striving for the same thing.
Well, even like coming along for a 5K or whatever, like even this morning on the run, I was like, or the trail, I was just like chatting, run along, and it was like, got to like, I was like, oh, I'm fucking 6Ks into this. I do not feel like I've run 6Ks.
Yeah.
What? Just because you didn't have any yarn the whole time, just cruising, not focused. You do it by yourself and you just like head miles.
Bloody oath.
Yeah.
Bloody oath. And sometimes you need to do it by yourself for the mongrel.
Fight the demons.
For the dog, yeah. But it's so much, you know, what do they say? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Go together, absolutely.
I think there's a lot of validity to that.
I was thinking about that this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, you know, there's a lot of, and I get it, there's a lot of talk now that like, don't rely on anyone else, just rely on yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's all about you. And like to an element and to a degree it is. Like you've got to run your own race.
Yeah.
You've got to learn how to fight your own battles.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about taking people along with you that makes it exciting.
I think more than anything, you address that first so that when you do go together, you can be who you need to be for that. Not
for sure.
If you haven't done that, you end up hanging off the back.
Yeah, I agree.
In any area of life.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because I made myself a rule that every time I prepared for a marathon, I had to do one solo longie by myself at the beginning of prep.
Yeah. Just
to establish mongrel and remind myself that I'm a dog when I need to be.
Yeah. Wake the dogs up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it, eh? And knowing that, like, fuck, if you get caught by yourself or whatever, like, I still remember that for the 42 for CF Marathon, I was like, dropped off the front pack, and then I was like, oh, I'll wait for you guys, and then it was the last loop out. It was, and then I kind of was like, all right, I'll run slow back around that Squires corner. That corner was head noise. And then it was like, you guys had stopped for a bit, and I was like, oh no, they'll catch up, and I was just cruising, and then I think Nath rode up on the bike and was like, yeah, they're all stopped back there, man, so like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm not stopping. So I think I did that last loop out and back by myself, and I was like
14K.
Yeah. Last 14 of a marathon off 3 weeks prep. It wasn't good. It was not good at all.
Because that was a special day though, wasn't it?
I remember initially I had something on that day, so I wasn't going to be able to make it. Yeah. And then like 3 weeks beforehand, it got moved or cancelled, and I was like, oh fuck, I got to be there for Brad. Like I can't not.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna show up and like cheer from the sides. I was like, I got to do it. And then I think I was running like 10Ks a week at the time, and then I messaged Dill. I was like, "Oi, what are your thoughts on like prepping for the marathon?" And he goes, "You're kidding, right?" And I was like, "No, I kind of want to do it. Like, I was going to be busy, but whatever I had on got moved." And then and he goes, "Okay, well, I don't recommend it, but here's your plan of attack," because he was doing like he's still doing all my coaching and stuff. So he was like, "Drop this down, stop doing this, start doing this. You're gonna have to ramp up to this before you do it." And I was like, "Oh fuck, okay, sweet."
Yeah.
I was just doing 2 5s a week at that point.
You know what though? I think people, it's so much more popular now, so it feels like everyone knows someone who's run a marathon.
Yeah.
But I think people underestimate how challenging it is.
It's not easy.
No. It's
not
tough.
easy. Yeah.
It's tough. And like that last 12, when your body like, because I think for me, the 30 plus has always been the most challenging because I reckon my biggest weakness is I don't fuel very well. Yeah. I really struggle with my gut. So I'm always fasted.
Tummy hurts.
Yeah, I'm always fasted. I feel like I need to shit myself. Like I'm always like...
Those gels ain't sitting right.
Yeah, no, like there's always something wrong with the fuel. So you get to a point where at 30, if you haven't fueled properly, the body goes,
you're dying out the
mate,
arse. Yeah.
last night's dinner ain't working for you anymore.
It'll only take you so far.
100%.
Chico's meal will only take you so far.
And I reckon that's where you need the training.
Yeah.
For that last quarter.
Absolutely.
So, but you know, I look back on that time and such a special time. And I even think that like, I was thinking about, for the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about getting you on for a chat. And it was funny, like I was looking at where we first met. Yeah. And like the couple of years, which has now been coming up to 4 years. 4, yeah. Right. Which doesn't feel like 4 years.
That COVID period.
Weird vortex of time.
I'm writing it off.
Yeah.
It's a fever dream.
Yeah. And you look at that and I'm like, oh man, your life's come a long way in that time too. Like your business has grown so much. And just even I think I'm thankful to say that I feel like I'm a better man and in a better position than I was then.
Absolutely.
And I would think that maybe you would think the same about yourself.
Definitely. If I wasn't, I'd be taking a good hard look at myself.
100%. But it's interesting, like I look at you now and I think there's a lot of aspects of your life that I really admire as a bloke similar age who's trying to be the best version of himself.
Appreciate it, man.
No, my pleasure. And I think you've earned that compliment because I look at the way you look after your physique. I look at the way that you treat your body, your energy, your business. Yeah. You really show up in every area of your life and give maximal effort. And there's a lot to be said for that because there's a lot of people who don't.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So why do you think you're that way?
Why do I think I'm that way? It's getting deep. I don't know. It's like where I'm at now is that I just like, I'm going to be dead one day or I'm going to be at a point in my life where I can't do the things I can do now, whether that's running, training, working, whatever. Like the economy's going to be different. Might be another lockdown, might be this, might be that. Like, I don't know when. I still remember, actually, I was at a funeral and it kind of clicked for me. And I was like, the guy was young, and I was like, you never know when you're going to go. Or like when you're going to be incapacitated or have something happen to you or have your circumstances change. Like, it's just like, I think, it's about riding that roller coaster and knowing that nothing's permanent. So like if it's good, just make the most out of it. Do everything you can while you're there. Tell people you love them. Make the most out of your friendships, relationships, everything. Make the most of the opportunities that are in front of you. Because even like, I had a good chat like with my business partner Reese about this, and he was like, it's not these opportunities we have now, like we've not just grown and now we're cool, like we can chill. Like what got us here is not going to get us there. There's not aspects or opportunities that are in a year's time, what we have in front of us will not be what we have in front of us. It might be better, it might be a lot worse, but we're here now and this is how it is, so we need to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And the same goes for like, my body's working fine. I'll squeeze everything I can out of it. I'm going to be old. I'm going to be dead one day. I'm going to be probably in a nursing home. Even my mum said to me the other day, she goes, I'm so glad I'm going to be dead when you're old. I was like, why? She's like, you're going to be a mess. I think we were talking about like all my injuries and stuff. And well, I think I'd done something. I think it was last time I broke my foot. And I was like, yeah, I didn't realize like I broke my foot like second week of fight camp, kicked someone in the elbow, and then did my knee last week of fight camp. So it was like, after that, I was like, got my knee treated, was sorting that out. And then I was like, oh, my foot kind of hurts as well. Got that x-rayed. And they're like, you broke that about 6 weeks ago. And I was like, okay, yeah. And she was just like, what? And you just kept training on it? I was like, yeah, I was in fight camp. I was doing what I was doing. Like,
yeah.
And she was like, you're going to be a mess when you're older. Like, I was like, well, like, I don't want to get to the end and be like, all right, I'm in good nick. Because I'm not going to be in good nick. I'm going to be old.
Yeah.
You squeeze the most out of it.
I think I think a lot of people have an illusion that they're going to get to 80 and go, start living life now.
Yeah, you're not gonna feel like this when you get. You're not gonna feel like this when you get to 40. You're not gonna feel like this when you get to 60. It'll still be good. I still make the most of it then. I'll do everything I can with what I've got. But it's absolutely not gonna be. I'm never gonna be this young again. Tomorrow I'm gonna be older. The next day I'm gonna be older. In 3 months' time I'll be older. Shit might start breaking. I might have this go wrong, that go wrong. I might have this take up however much of my time. We never know what's gonna happen.
You speak about that moment of realisation at a funeral, which I think there's probably a lot of people that can resonate with that kind of, I'm experiencing loss here, an unexpected loss, and this changes the way that I think about life. Do you think that you've been thinking differently up until that point, almost like the clock didn't hold a lot of weight?
I potentially just didn't give it the respect it deserved. In that, like, from that side of things, like, it's just, it was always like, I was always like, oh yeah, people are, what are you most afraid of? Like, what are you scared of? I'm like, I'm scared of getting to the end and being like, could have gone harder, could have done this, could have done that. But until it was like that particular one where I was like, this guy had a family, had everything going for him, like, you're just like, it can happen to anyone. Like, it was a little bit more of like you go to old, like, funerals for people that have died of old age, and you're like, oh, they had a good life, they did that. You're like, cool, yeah. It's like, it's upsetting. Obviously, it's loss still, but it's not. I don't know. You hear the eulogy, all of that, and you're like, okay, like, you had a good crack. You got the most out of it. Whereas, like, I feel like this particular one, I was like, there's so much on the table. There's so much still on the table, like,
for sure.
And it's just,
people, you probably heard a bit of a cliche saying, but people say there's a difference between existing and living. But I think there's even another level to that where there's a real difference between living and living with intention. I think a lot of young people live their life.
Yeah, they're having a great time. They're doing this, doing that, whatever. But you go through that cycle so many times, and then you're spinning your wheels, and then you're like, why does that guy over there? I'm 5 years down the track. Why is he lived with intention? Yeah. The people that existed are fucking way back there. You're still doing all right here, but you haven't done what you want to do.
Yeah. And it's never too late.
No, never.
But don't leave it.
No.
Don't leave it any longer.
No.
Recognise it and react.
Yeah.
Because I think that, I think for you now, it's rare that people progress in all levels of their life at the same time, because life throws spanners in the works. But, some people do. But I think as long as you're progressing in some way, shape or form, you're learning some lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that should always be the goal. I've come to learn that. I probably put in the past too much emphasis on result as opposed to just striving for progress.
TK said this to me this morning. We're talking about...
He's great for a bit of wisdom, isn't he?
He's the best. Shout out TK. And he said he was watching something and someone was talking about making $1 million. And he said, I'm going to butcher this, but it's along the lines of, it's not about making your $1 million, it's who you become as you make your first $1 million. Because once you get it, you could lose it all. Whatever, it's money. Money's money. But who you are then, you're a person who's made $1 million. Sweet. You've got that. You've earned it. You've earned that belief. Okay, I'm someone who can make $1 million. Whether that be growing a business, running, any form of athletic achievement, starting a family, doing the right thing, whatever. It was more about who you become on that journey versus the result. I think that kind of goes for any, like, even I was meant to fight twice last year, injured myself twice before both of them, and like I was like real down and out about it. But they even, like, talking to my coach, he was like, who you've become is, you've done, like, we're all proud of you. We know who you are. Like, the fight is the grand final. The fight is the, all right, everyone, now look at what I've done. Because we know here, you've done it.
I like that.
You've worked for it, you've earned it. We know who you are. And I was like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to become that person, not stepping into the ring, doing whatever, stepping onto the trail and doing 100K, whatever. Do anything you do in your life, it's about what it took to get there.
You've probably just put into words what I witnessed about a week or two ago. So I had maybe my fourth or fifth opportunity to be a ring announcer.
Yeah.
And so had this great event that was put on by a local gym. And they had, I think it was 9 pro bouts. A good mate of ours, Cornflake Squiz, on the card. Really showed up and ripped in. I was super proud of him. And so the last fight, the pro fight, was just such a, I've witnessed a few of them now, and I'm sure you've seen a few amateur fight nights. I was so impressed with the courage of every one of the amateurs to get in the ring and bang, they all had a real crack. I was like, this is so entertaining. We got to the pro fight, and I know that the local fella was just so keen for it. He trained hard. It was he told me at the start of the night, it's going to be my last. I want to get in there, have a really good showing, and make everyone proud. Prep really hard for this, and I'm like, good on you. So we get into the pro fight. I call him out. There's so much energy in the room. It's great. Everyone's pumped, and his opponent made a decision to fake an injury. It was pretty appalling. So he got his 5 minutes with the doctor. The doctor ruled that there's absolutely no injury that I can see, feel, or suspect. Yeah.
What, in the fight or?
30 seconds into the fight. Kind of came into the corner, a little bit of a kerfuffle, tried to get out. Ref kind of got tangled up a bit. Guy trips a bit, makes out he does his ankle. They watched the replay back. It was bullshit. Yeah. But they call the fight, and one of the judges said to me that this guy's done this on a couple of occasions. This guy, I think he's a Sydney sider. Yeah. He's done this on a couple of occasions. I think he tries to grab a check and bounce without getting hit. And so it was a fucking disastrous way to end an incredible night. And I really felt for Trent, the local guy, because I thought, mate, you've been through a fight camp. Yeah, you've done this. Was your last one. You've done it all. But then I remember standing there because we had this moment where, we're speaking between the commission and the judges. How do you want us to rule this? Yeah. And I had this moment where I was just thinking about him, and I felt for him. I had that bit of empathy, and I thought, but mate, you're here, ready to rock and roll. You moved forward. You've done everything in your that's in your control. Absolutely. He made a decision not to show up. Yeah. And that's not on you. No. And I could see he was devastated. He didn't get to fight. Yeah. But I'm exactly like you said, I think that put the words into action for me, is that you know what you've done. You don't have to show anyone else. It's we all know. Yeah. And so it was I guess that's a really great way of putting it.
Yeah. It's the same with anything in your life. You go through whatever you go through, good, bad, ugly. You come out the other side, you're who you are because of those things, and you're someone who you might get into a sport or whatever and then have something go wrong, and you're like, I went through that. What's this? I went through that. What's this? It's that fucking that cookie jar, as Goggins talks about.
Do you have a bit of an ethos or, I guess, mission statement for the way in which you live your life?
I don't know. Not really. Just, if anything, it'd be just have a fucking crack. Yeah. That's simple. All in with whatever you're going to do. I'm personality-wise, I'm a very 0 or 100 person. I tend to when I put all if I'm in, I'm all in, and that can affect other areas of my life. Like if I go too hard on like my athletic pursuits, like I'll have my business partners be like, bro, come on, you need to focus on work. I'm like, sorry, I'm letting the team down. You guys, and they're great like that. We can have that honest chat. Or if I go too hard in a particular way, like my family's like, bro, where you been? Or like previous girlfriends have been like, what's going on? Like, I'm like, so I don't have time. I'm 100% in on these two things. I can't have three things going.
It's a hard balance, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's something, like the balance between it all is something I definitely struggle with.
See, it's interesting for me because I hear you say that and I'm trying to think about how I am, and I think I'm a pretty naturally balanced guy. You know, I like to dabble in the run, dabble in the almond croissant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
And like
you got to earn it.
Yeah, you got to earn it. And it's I probably have had a few without earning them in the past. You know,
they're not as good as the ones after a run.
100%, they're not. 100%.
They don't hit the same.
But it's funny that I think I just naturally am quite a balanced character, and maybe because I'm not naturally super disciplined. You know, it's easier for me to be more relaxed than it is for me to be locked in.
Yeah.
So being locked in is a real mindset.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely get too locked in on things. Like it's just tunnel vision, blinders on. This is what I'm doing. It's who I am. And it's kind of like I'm learning to take a step back and go, I need to have a relatively all-encompassing. I'm not 20 anymore. I can't just focus on this one thing and nothing else matters. Like I need to, I don't know, I'm an adult, I guess. I'm trying to be anyway.
That's a hard realization, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what does it look like for you now, like training-wise?
Yeah.
Because you're pretty dialed in with it, but talk to me about the food and stuff too.
Yeah.
Because I'm interested to hear your philosophy on this. Because you see me walk today, and I've been crippled by gout.
Yeah.
Which maybe suggests that there's something going wrong in my nutritional life.
Intake. Yeah.
So I'm keen to see your philosophy on this.
Yeah. So, like nutrition wise, growing up, I didn't have bad asthma. Dad had asthma growing up. I would always especially cold air, like any form of like cardio, I had my puffer. Like I always had asthma, always would get real bad eczema. And so it wasn't until I to backtrack further, I was not even growing up, like my earlier 20s, I was like purely focused on like calories, macros, however I can get that in. Like there was a point where I was like powerlifting, I was 105 kilos, like 20 kilos heavier than I am now. And I was like eating 7,000 calories a day, like drinking half of them. Like it was just it was horrible. But there was I had no, similar to what we were talking about before we jumped on here, but just about like quality of food and where it comes from. I was buying the cheapest fish, tuna. Like I had this like thing where I was like, however, like the cheaper I can get my weekly grocery shop, the better. It was like a little win for me. And I was like putting that much food away and spending like $60 a week on groceries or something ridiculous.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, it was like just quality wise, it was horrible. I felt like shit. I still remember my first ever run I went on. I was like 105 kilos, tried to do 5K and just blew up. Like I got like a lower back cramp. Like that's how like fucked I was. I was like what, a lower back cramp is stopping me? Like that's how like out of whack and everything. Like it shouldn't have been that. It should have been my knees or my ankle, my shins or something.
Doing Achilles or something.
My hamstring
something
or something.
honourable, you know.
I was like, why is my lower back cramping? What the hell? I did deadlifts yesterday, that's why. But since that, during that period, I was like focused on like putting on size, moving more weight, and the numbers. And then like I had all these kind of like underlying, I guess you could call them autoimmune issues, like eczema, asthma, like chronic gut inflammation, like constantly felt like shit, constantly bloated. And then it wasn't until kind of 2-3 years ago that I think I'd stumbled across, like, I always heard people talking about like keto, carnivore, this, that, and I was like, you only eat meat and eggs, bro? Come on. Like, and then I stumbled across a few people that were kind of talking about like, and like almost like an elimination modified carnivore diet. And so it was technically like, I guess the guidelines were like meat, eggs, fruit, honey. Because I tried like the whole keto thing, carnivore for a bit, and it was like meat and eggs, and I just felt lethargic, like no energy, especially like with the running and fighting and all that stuff. I was kind of like, I needed some carbs, obviously. So I kind of did that, pulled like all the shit out, started like filtering my tap water, like stopped using soaps and shit that had certain preservatives in it. There was this book I read called Estrogeneration by this guy, Dr. Anthony GJ. And he talks about like just what's in like pesticides, food products, like any kind of hygiene products, like, and I was kind of like, that was kind of like a little bit of an eye opener for me. And so I kind of read that and went, I'll try it. Like I've got all these issues going on. Like what do I do? Give it a crack. What's the worst that's going to happen? I eat too much meat. And then had that happen, like just kind of started doing that, and like just through eliminating, like I ended up figuring out it's kind of like cruciferous vegetables, legumes, so like broccoli, broccolini, asparagus, chickpeas, a lot of like, I don't know, I guess if anyone's vegan, it's kind of like their whole diet, but whatever I cut out, like I cut all that out, and like my issues kind of cleared up within a couple of months. And then so I've kind of just been doing that, obviously traveling a bit for work, and that's kind of hard to maintain that on the road. I used to be similar to, I was talking before, I just get like tunnel vision. I went like stupid, like I'm not having this. I was like restricted myself a lot with it. Just got kind of way too locked in on it. Now I'm a little bit more relaxed with it, where I'm like, I've got the baseline there, and I know if I have these issues flare up, I can go back to that and draw on that and kind of, all right, cool, I'll tidy things up a bit, eliminate these things. Like you were saying, even with the gout, it normally happens when you have a bunch of shitty foods, sugar and that, and then you go, okay, cool, I'll back off that, it'll clear up, and then I can start to reintroduce little bits and pieces. So I guess for the most part, my philosophy around food is just like, I don't know, I really appreciate like end goal, I'd like to have my own like farm, full, like grow my own food, be completely self-dependent like that. Like I enjoy knowing, I like hunting, I like knowing where my meat comes from. Like I don't have a problem at all with that. Like I think as humans it's natural, and the more we get urbanized and kind of taken out and away from all of that, the more it becomes this foreign concept where you go, no, the meat is from the fridge at Woolies. I just buy that one. I buy the cheapest one. Why do I feel like shit? I don't know. So
yeah, isn't that interesting though, that like I've heard people say that they didn't realise certain meat come from certain animals because they just think it's something you buy at Woolies. I'm like, what do you mean? But you're right, we're so organised now.
Just that disconnect, like just having no connection to your food you're eating, like, and then on the flip side of that, like as a result of that, being repulsed by hunting or farming practices, or like, don't get me wrong, I think big farming's pretty horrible and they're pretty inhumane, but like if you can buy organic, if you can like go one better, and like we were talking about before, know where your food's coming from. Like I buy whole lambs from this farm down in Goulburn, it's hectic. I love knowing that was that guy. I talked to him, he went, yeah, sweet, you want a whole lamb? He went and got the lamb, sent it off, got it to the butcher, sent it to me. And I give the money to the guy that raised the lamb. Awesome. Yeah, that's how it should be.
It's the most sustainable way of doing it.
Absolutely. It's all like, looks after them, they live a good life. That's how it should be.
We were speaking about this last night, so I was saying to you that my partner's family are in the farming world, and they do everything organic. And they were actually saying last night that their decision was looking at the way that a lot of factory farms were run, and like it is quite cruel.
It's pretty gross. Yeah,
like you've got, because you know David, Soap's father, was saying that like if you look at chickens, the way that like a chicken is designed, like with a long beak, it's supposed to be like digging, pecking into the ground, eating grubs
in this cage,
in the soil, and then you see these chickens that like are stuck in cages, like living in their own shit. Like it's not how they're supposed to be.
No.
And so he was like, we just wanted to do everything organic and sustainable. And
there's an element of that, like looking at, if you like, sure, you go a step back and it's like, whatever those are eating, like what you eat, whatever those animals are eating, you're eating that animal, you're getting some element of that shitty feed they got, whatever. But there's this like, I was listening to some podcast the other day of this guy talking about it, and it got a little bit like weird and esoteric, but they were like, but he was, I agreed to it with it to an extent. It's obviously entirely unprovable, but he's like, there's an element of trauma that those animals have that is going through your food that you are then consuming. And I was like, whether that's true or not, like if you just eat food from animals that were happy majority of their life, you know where they come from, all of that, then that's like, you're at least potentially missing this question mark. But I think there's an element of like, as a whole, humans, like, you have right over animals. Like, we are the apex, like apex predator, I guess. We have dominion over animals. Like, just treat them not like shit.
Yeah,
you don't have
sure.
to. Yeah. For what, a profit? Get out of here, man.
And see, that's the thing. And so this is a double-edged sword. So I don't want to sit here and be a hypocrite, because I certainly shop at Woolworths a lot because of the convenience and the price. And I am telling you with 100% certainty that there's definitely some frozen chicken tenders in my freezer right now.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes. Yeah, you got
to do what you got to do sometimes. And I'm really interested. There's a guy that his name is Jacob Wolke. He has a farm in Albury.
Yeah, right.
And like, same thing, David knows him through some connections, does everything sustainably, does farm tours so people can see where they're getting their food from, and he's like really dialed in on like this way of living and this way of life. And we were speaking about how it's just so expensive though. Yeah. You know, and it's like, it's such a financial commitment. And so the first thing, because we often don't have as high a regard for our health as we should as human beings, it's like, well, we need a roof over our heads. So the rent comes first. It's the hierarchy
of needs, man. It's like,
for sure,
roof over my head, I need some savings in my bank account to do this, and then I guess I'll eat the shitty food. Yeah, like I said, I used to fucking try and do my weekly shop as cheap as possible. I was buying in bulk. I was like buying the cheap. I was looking at the little price per 100 grams. I was like, yeah, give me that one. I'm like, that one. Not responsibly farmed tuna, nothing. I was like, I'm copping some heavy metals here. It's not going to be good.
You know, but it is sad though that the way that society is built, that is most likely the way that people are going to consume their food. Yeah. And then even the thing that, so this is the thing that perplexes me, right? And so I've spoken about a bunch on the pod. Soph and I had a particularly tight 9 months last year where there was rarely any money left, and often a little bit not enough to get by that week. And you'd have
into the red a bit.
You'd have to find a way.
Next week's,
yeah. And so frozen chicken and frozen veg was a staple in our house. Let me tell you, it's fucking tasty, right? It's very tasty.
You learn to love it.
For sure. Crumbed frozen chicken is very tasty. But the interesting thing for me is, like, I'd pick up a bag of this stuff and it's like $11-12, and I'd go, how is it cheaper for that than it is for the same chicken? And I'm like,
before anyone's done anything to it.
For sure. And I'm like, this can't be 100% clean and good for us. There's something going on with this chicken here. It's not as good quality as they're saying on.
Doesn't add up.
100%. And it's bagged up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so it's definitely not going to be the best thing for us.
Yeah.
But it sure is better than eating some fucking Doritos
for
dinner. So it's like, there's levels to it. And I think as you become a little bit more financially free and you get to make some decisions around how you spend your money, then it becomes a quality conversation.
Yeah, and it's like priorities as well. Like, you see a lot of people happy to spend money on this or that or a holiday, or they're like, just eat right, man, and you'll feel good all the time, and then you won't be depressed and need to go on that holiday. Like, whatever, commit your money to a gym membership instead of your Netflix or your this or your that, and you like, go outside, go do something. You'll feel a lot better, and then you won't need this other financial thing you're doing. Like, I don't know. It's priorities, I guess.
It's crazy though that I reckon there's a lot of people who don't realise how shit they feel. Because let me tell you, I didn't.
I didn't either. Until I like started eating a certain way and like training, looking after myself, whatever. I was like, is this how I was supposed to feel the whole time?
Sure.
Is this, what?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Where was
Yeah.
this?
Where's this guy? Who's this guy?
Yeah.
Who's this guy? How
Why
come
didn't
I'm bloated?
why didn't you tell me this is school?
Yeah. So for you, is it challenging to live that way? Like, is there still an element of discipline that comes with living that way, or is it just almost a natural choice now?
Like I said, it's now that it's at a point where those issues don't present themselves anymore. Like, there's this patch on my shoulder I get that flares up a little bit, and if I've eaten, similar to probably to your gout, if I've eaten pretty badly for like, I don't know, a couple of days in a row, like a little bit of eczema flares up there, and I'm like, oh, it's my bad food patch. And I look at it, I'm like, okay, sweet, I got to tidy things up a bit. It's coming back. So I get like nowhere near what it used to be, but it's, I guess, when I was like completely tunnel vision on living a certain way, it was like, yeah, it took a lot of like, no, man, I can't come here and do this, can't come here and do that, no, I'm not going to come out and eat here, or like, and that's where it kind of became obsessive, I guess. And I had to kind of, now I've kind of dialed it back a bit, like I'll have a meal out. If the boys are going out for food, I'll go eat a meal out. I just had a Chico's burger before.
Nice.
I went for a run, I earned it. But it's like, for me, it's about eating that way adds positive to my life, like adds to my bucket.
Sure.
If I get too locked in on that and it starts taking away from my bucket and that I miss social things, I stop enjoying, my relationship with food deteriorates, or I become this obsessed, like, can't go eat this, can't do that, my social life suffers as a result, or I'm like, oh, I have to prep all this for traveling and then I miss doing this or that. It kind of becomes this like balancing act where it's like, I'll do that 95% of the time, and then the other 5% I get a little bit like, fuck it, don't worry about it. It's kind of a little bit more, I guess that can become like a slippery slope where you just start rationalizing everything. But I guess it's just kind of, now it's a little bit more like, I just eat the way I do. It's not like I don't have to try. It's not an effort for me. But then also on the same note, if I'm doing a certain thing, or I'm out somewhere or I'm traveling and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? Not eat? Like, I'm not going to get Macca's, but
yeah, you make a slightly smarter choice.
That's what I mean. You take what you know, and you use it to serve you, not limit you. So you go, oh, instead of getting this thing from the menu, I'll get this thing. Instead of taking or eating 2 of those, I'll get 1 of those and 1 of those. More along those lines. More of like a framework rather than like a set of rules.
I like that framework. It's a good word for it.
Yeah, in that it's not limiting. It's a supporting basis of what you do, not necessarily restrictive rules where if you break them, you're in trouble, kind of thing. Yeah.
So talk to me about the training then. So you use that word framework. I think it's probably a good way to reference your training, because I can imagine, and to a degree I know that, you know, right now you're preparing for some big trail work. Yeah. Which means you're not in a fight camp. Yeah. Because that'd be hard to do 2 things at once. Yeah. But then you're also lifting weights and you're doing those things.
Getting kicked in the legs isn't great for long runs.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah, those things don't go well together.
So talk to me about like what that looks like on a week to week.
So like training schedule wise. Yeah. At the moment, I'm kind of still, I guess, building a good base for the races I've got coming up. So I'm kind of running most days, kind of 5 to 6 days a week. I think I had a down week last week and then obviously injured myself back into that. So this week's been like a down week, but it's coming good. So I'll do another up week next week. But I think the last up week I had was about 84 Ks.
That's a big week.
Yeah. So
especially if you're on trails too.
Yeah.
That's a big week.
I think I did all of those over 4 runs because I was traveling at the same time. So it was a bit, but I'm kind of running 5-6 days a week, lifting weights like 3 times a week. So a lot of days not really anymore. I was training weights like every day as well. So I kind of was burning the candle at both ends a bit, not recovering properly, or sore for my runs. And I was like, all right, something's got to give. So, Dill adjusted my program a bit, dropped it down 3 days a week for just weights, which is a lot of it's like to support the running, I guess.
Yep.
And then it's been hard the last couple of weeks because I've been jumping between like traveling and then I'm back and then I've been getting this tattoo done. So I'm like, I can't go train MMA after getting tattooed. So I've been like just kind of jumping between that. But I'll generally try and get some MMA training in at least like 2 days a week. Yeah. 2-3 days a week.
Is that, and so would you say that's 1 day of groundwork, 1 day of hitting pads and moving around?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a lot of, it just depends on when, like schedule wise, when I can get in, like, a little bit more of kickboxing stuff, like the wrestling side of things is a little bit more than on the load side of things. So, that obviously I don't want to like tweak anything there and then it affects the running of these races I've bought tickets for. So it's a financial thing. Yeah. I mean, I've told everyone I've got to do it now. Yeah. If I say I'd do something, I got to do it. Yeah.
So how do you split? So if you're doing 5 runs a week, are you putting 2 of them on trail? Are you putting a couple on trail?
Yeah, I'm kind of doing 4 of those on trail and then 1 or 2 on road.
And that's an even bigger commitment because it's always easier to run on the road.
Yeah, you can just go outside and
takes less time.
Yeah, you don't have to drive to the trail. Map it out.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not closed. Make sure they're not culling deer.
I have to say, so this is really funny. You'll enjoy this. So I was seeing some of the trail stuff that you guys have been doing over the course of what's probably been a couple of months now.
Yeah.
And one Wednesday morning, on Wednesdays I go for my run with Joey and Ferns, and it's like our one chance to catch up every week. And I said to the boys, why don't we mix it up and go for a trail? And they're like, yeah, sweet. And
where'd you go?
So we all got in the car and we drove to Tarrawanna.
Yeah.
And parked up. And I can't remember who I spoke to in particular, but it was one of the boys. And they said, it's this beautiful little fire trail where you'll just be able to go for a nice run out and back. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, sweet. So I said to the boys, just park here, we'll walk up and we'll jump on the fire trail. Yeah. When I tell you, I could not find this fucking fire trail. We ran past the same lounge 3 times. There's a lounge in the middle of the bush there that's got "fuck you" written on it. Have you seen it?
That would have been down at Possums,
Yeah. And for the life of me, we could not figure it out. So we've run that trail about 3 times now, and we just do the same thing. It's like run a K in that direction, a K back, K in that direction, K back.
It's like a 3-pronged approach. Yeah.
But it's like there's so much preparation that goes into it.
Yeah, and I guess I'm very, like, especially running around here, like, I'm very lucky that I kind of grew up riding bikes. So it's like a lot of the stuff we run, I used to ride. Yeah. So there's like little bits and pieces. Like I grew up, like we'd go from my house at Woonona to like ride up the fire trail, up to Broker's Nose and then back down. Or like Dad would pick us up after school with the bikes on the back and drop us over the back, and we'd ride into Broker's Nose and then down like all the way home. He'd be like, see you home in an hour or 2. I was like, sweet.
What do you think? What's the best trail in the Illawarra?
I don't know. That's a big question. In the Illawarra, is the national park in the Illawarra?
Yeah.
We class that.
We'll claim it.
Yeah, definitely the coast track.
It's pretty beautiful, isn't it? I've walked it before. But
yeah, it's like 30 Ks. Yeah, it's about 20. I think the last time we ran it was like 28. But it's just beautiful. You get so much, like, I went and ran up at the national park today, and it was like, it's just so beautiful.
I love that. The one thing that appeals to me about trail running is it's always at sexy pace.
It's always a sexy pace.
You know, like,
yeah, especially like your long ones. Like, you're walking up the hills, bro. Like, you're not running the whole, like, it's not like someone was asking me this the other day, and they're like, oh, like for the 100, are you gonna like focus on like a pace or like and I was like, you don't get a chance to. It's like the first 10 Ks might be at like 9-minute Ks because it's all uphill, and then you might hit a downhill section for the next 20 Ks, and it's like you run 5 minutes. It's just like, I think we're just gonna set times that we want to be at certain rest stations and just kind of be like, all right, cool, it's been 3 hours, yep, we're at the first one, nice, let's try and make it to the next one in 2, done. Get an idea of that. But it's like, I definitely enjoy trail running's good because you get that variation in pace. It's a little bit more mentally stimulating than just like pounding pavement. Yeah. Well,
and that's, I think it's a really good point. It's what I was just thinking about then, is like the one thing that I enjoyed about it is because I'm an unco motherfucker. Like if I'm not fully present, I'm stacking it.
Yeah. You're rolling some ankles.
Yeah. And so I'm like forced just tune into what I'm
gotta lock
doing.
in.
Which there's like, I don't think I do a lot of that in my life. I'm always a little bit overstimulated.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with James O'Connor yesterday, rugby player. And he said that like his life really started to change when he started spending more time being present. And like, he said, you know, he said him and his partner went to Blink in Queensland a couple of weeks ago. And he said, I was like at the concert and like acutely aware of the fact that everyone who was like under 35 spent most of the time on their phone.
Yeah. And film a little bit, post a little bit, see who's liked my story.
Talking to someone about
replied, oh, you should be here, dude. It's crazy. Like, you're not even here, bro. What are you talking about?
When he said to me, we're not bored anymore.
Never.
And I was
People
like,
don't know how to
that's
be
so
bored.
interesting. Because I think running's given me that. Like, if you go for a 2-hour run, and you've been on a few 2-hour plus runs with me, there's not a lot of time where I'm not talking.
I was about to say that.
I still remember the first time that Luke Mack ever come on a long run. And I still remember it got to about, I think we'd done like 25 Ks and he's like, you've not shut the fuck up the whole way.
I have not heard a moment of something. Like, it's just been Brad's voice. Yeah.
But, but it's almost like when you go, especially when you go alone or like, Soph likes to wear one headphone so she can tune in and out of it.
Yeah.
So like you spend a bit of time just like locked in.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's probably the only time I get that in a week.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I really like. It's like it's good for your head. I hate running with music or even like podcasts or anything.
Yeah,
like,
I can't do it.
I've talked to people about it and they're like, you're crazy. How do you do that? I'm like, you run with music, it fucks your tempo up. You're like...
I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, dude. Here's some hectic drum and bass playing, trying to do a fucking sexy pace 5K recovery.
Not happening.
Nah, it's 420 pace
Running a PB,
immediately.
That's actually the only time if I want to run really fast, I put something in because it just can't hear my heartbeat. So it pushes me.
Yeah. You have to choose like a specific tempoed playsist.
But then maybe I need to become more comfortable with the dog.
That's it, man.
Maybe I'm just a weak bastard.
Just me and the dogs. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely an element of like, especially like when you're by yourself or like longer, especially when I'm like, I was meant to, a couple of weeks ago, I was meant to go on like up to the Blue Mountains and run a marathon up there with Dean and a few other people. And like I'd organised this group and then it was Saturday morning. Me and Dean was meant to pick me up at 5. Here I am admitting this on a podcast, so it's here forever. But I got home from the airport the night before I flew in. I got home at like 1:30, so I was meant to be like getting up at 4, and I was like, I just slept. I woke up at 7, and then like 15 missed calls from Dean. I was like, I was like proper in my own head, and I was like, well, I still got to hit a mara. And so Dean was like, oh, I went up, did it, and I was like, sweet. He's like, I'm almost there now. Like when I woke up and called him back, and I was like, just sitting on the end of my bed, just looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Get it together. And then I was like, just straight up jumped on my like the footpath app that I use to map like whatever I'm running, and I just like drew this. I was like, all right, I'm doing that, and just drove just head noise the whole time.
I bet
it's just just like I think it was like 43 Ks or something just by myself in the rain in the bush.
So I know that we're both mutual admirers of the great George Heaton, founder of Represent 24/7. And I heard him saying, I often watch their little vlogs they do. I enjoy them. And I heard him saying that, like, for him, long running changed. It went from sucking to something he loved the minute he learned how to fuel well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I fully get that because I think at the time I started long running and training for the first few marathons, there was a lot of flexibility in my routine in my life where I could go for a long run and pass it. Like I remember I used to run long on a Wednesday morning. That's fucking luxury stuff. Come home, eat Chicos for lunch, pass out on the lounge, and question whether I wanted to do anything with the rest of my day.
Yeah, you're like, might just slip. Might chuck some Netflix on.
Friends would be good right now, you know.
Whack it on. Just watch it again.
Yeah,
run it through.
Run it through all the seasons once again.
Yeah.
So you kind of like, I had that flexibility. But then over the course of like the last year and a bit, as life's gotten busier, I've noticed that like, oh God, if I'm gonna like do a podcast a day that I'm long running, I'm gonna feel like shit.
Well, even when we went to catch up in Melbourne, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna join you for 5A because a long run, I'm not fueled properly, I haven't slept well. I was like, sweet bro, I'll pick you up, we'll do 5.
Like, because my biggest issue is I suck at the fuel.
Yeah.
And so like he spoke about the moment he realised and started to learn about fuel and what works for his body and tested it, the long runs, you don't finish feeling so depleted. You might be physically sore, but mentally you're still attuned.
Yeah. It's like trying to drive a car with no petrol in it. You're like, your car's not going to be having a good time, bro.
No.
Something's going to give.
It's going to start making some noises and shit.
Yeah. Dog's only going to get you so far.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I question with you. So I've been watching your updates the last couple of weeks as you're tackling some of these big runs. And I'm like, man, you're doing some big runs and then you're working.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I wonder how your mental clarity's been on those days.
Yeah. I generally, like, for a bit there was obviously burning the candle at both ends, trying to go hard everywhere. And it's kind of like, wasn't working. I was traveling a lot, trying to still train MMA, trying to do weights 5-6 days a week, trying to run 5-6 days a week. And it was just like, something had to give. I was a potato for a couple of weeks there. I think it was like start of the year. And then, like I said, had a chat to a few people and they were like, bro, like, you're trying to do everything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. Like,
at least all at once.
Yeah. You can't do everything. You can have whatever you want, but you can have that one thing. I was like, okay, I need it. So I scaled everything back a bit. But now, like, even on like long run days and stuff, like I was sweet. I don't feel like, now that I've got my head around fueling it as well, like, because for a while there I had a very like, for the whole first like 6 months of the year, I was like focused on making weight, eating a certain way. Like it was like log all my carbs around sparring or around the evening session. So I wouldn't eat till like 11, 12, have 2 meals at work and then have most of my food around training because I was trying to hit a certain weight by a certain date. Whereas now it doesn't really matter how heavy I am or, I don't know, I still want to look good, but you know, yeah. So it's like, there's an element of that, but it's like the night before a long run, you smash a bunch of sushi, morning of, bunch of bananas, bunch of honey, and then just like not being afraid of, especially like during camp, I ate like super low carb and then just had like low carb, high fat, and then had most of my carbs around my training sessions. I'm just like not being afraid of the carbs now. Like I'm just like, I did the math on it the other day and I was like, oh fuck, I've had like, even when I did the marathon, I was like, I had like 400 grams of carbs. I was like, that's a lot of, that's like, I was running the whole time though, so I guess I needed it.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at my watch, I'm like, 3,000 calories. Yeah, okay, it's pretty justified. Like that. It's just getting out of that, making that switch into like, I'm focused on feeling good for this endurance event, not necessarily like, I need to time my carbs correctly so I have a sick pump and then stay lean the rest of the day. Like the weight's been falling off anyway and I've just been eating everything. So
for sure.
Yeah.
How do you find like, are you good with gels?
Yeah. I found a couple that work really well for me.
What do you use?
Morton.
Yeah.
The Morton ones sit awesome with me and the Morton solids. And then we've got these other ones, the Coda ones. They've been fine. But there's some I've had that I'm just like, I feel like someone stabbed me,
Yeah. It's dangerous.
Like, did someone jump out of the bushes and just
Yeah.
put something in my ribs, bro? What the fuck?
Was there like an explosive device inside of that gel? Because something just exploded in my stomach.
I got an IED in me right now. Yeah. I'm waiting for someone with a button to push it, and that's the end.
Well, I just think it's such an important part of like you said, it's like trying to drive a car without petrol.
Yeah.
But that's, for me, we've decided we're going to aim for a PB half.
Yeah.
Sort of mid-ish year. We're going to try to find an event that isn't sold out already.
Yeah.
It's hard to do these days.
Good luck with that.
And aim for like a PB half, and then maybe at the end of the year, pick a marathon or pick something that's like lengthy and a bit challenging. Even I don't even mind the idea of there's that one in the national park, the 28K, I think it is, 28 or 32 trail.
Yeah. When's that?
September-ish. Which I'm like, I've heard heaps of people just like absolutely rave about and saying it's a great event.
I've heard, did they stop doing it for a couple of years and then put it back on?
Maybe they haven't put it back on.
I
need to check that. Another event that I can't fucking buy a ticket for. So I'll have a look into it, but I want to, just get dialed in with the stuff around it so I feel awesome.
Yeah.
Not just the days leading up to, but like the day after I've done my training.
Yeah.
Because I literally don't have I work 7 days a week at the moment.
Yeah.
So I just like can't afford to feel shit.
No.
because then I'm rocking up half-assed.
And you're like, I'm not an athlete. That's not what I do.
No, correct, yeah.
But I want to try my best.
But I still want to be an athlete, yeah.
I want to be.
Doesn't mean I don't want to be, yeah.
I'm going to try my best to be one and do everything else as well. Yeah.
So talk to me about the business athlete in you. Obviously, Red Dragon,
yeah,
your company, supplement company.
Yeah, well, yeah, me and Reese and Ryan, 3 of the owners.
So where does that come from? Like, what's the foundation of the creation of Red Dragon? What's it inspired by?
So that started however many years ago. I was like, so Reese, my business partner in Red Dragon, has kind of always been like a bit of a mentor to me. Like he's, I think, 5 years older than me. So he was like, I started working for him when I was 18, I think.
Yep.
18, 19. And he owns 2 sup stores in Wollongong. And then I was like working for him, literally doing like, I just kind of like always, I was enjoying my training and then kind of like really like the supplement side of things. And then was like started doing like taste testings. Like when you go to the gym, there's a guy there like, hey, you want to try some shit? And like I was getting paid like out of date bags of protein for it. Like he was like, bro, it's like we're not in a position to pay you for this. And he's like, I was like, just give me that and I'll do it. And he's like, oh, okay, sweet. I need to get rid of it anyway, off the clearance table, straight to you. And then I started working like casually in the stores, then full time, and then started kind of managing the stores as he was kind of focusing on like distribution side of things. So he was importing a couple of US brands and then like wholesaling them to a couple of other like stores and stuff around. And then at the time, obviously like working in the stores, you kind of like researching what products is, what, like, you don't want a customer to walk in and be like, what's this brand? You're like, I don't fucking know. So I was like doing all that and I was like, oh, why doesn't that product have that in it? That product would be cool if it had double that in it or whatever. And so I just started buying like raws off like Amazon and iHerb and just like literally just guinea pig and shit on myself. Bought a set of micro scales and mum was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, trust me, mum, it's just supplements, it's fine.
Why is there a bunch of guys with hairnets and lab coats on in our
what's
house?
Going on here? So I was like literally doing that, and then I still remember there was one time Reese was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just making like a pre-workout, like I'm putting it together. And he's like, bro, just like, we could do something with this. Like we're already selling these other brands. Like, why don't you try and just like we'll team up. You can do the little thing on the side. Like, so I think the first couple runs were made in the US and like had them shipped over, like minimum runs. Like, this photo of it like in the downstairs room of my parents' house, and it was like all my savings at the time just sitting in the corner, and I was like, that it? I was like, shit. So that kind of started there, and then we were importing these US brands, and then a few of them, like, so Ryan, the other business partner in Red Dragon, was working for another company at the time. He ended up coming across and like working for us selling these US brands, and then one of them went to some other distributor and the other one went out of business, like that. And so we were just kind of like, we've got like whatever dollar value worth of stock and like no brand continuity now. Like Ryan's just come over from this, like used to work for like the biggest distributor in Australia to this like 3 guys just trying to sell some shit, and was like, what do we do? And then Reese was like, all right, let's take this money, put it into Red Dragon and grow that as a brand and have a crack at that. So we moved all the manufacturing to Australia, that side of things, and then kind of grew it from there. So started off with like one product, sold through that, another run of that, sold through that.
The first was a pre, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a pre-workout. So just because that was like the easiest category to kind of be different in. Like everything else is like protein's a protein, your amino product's an amino product. So yeah, like it's, I don't know, people all the time are like, oh, your business, this, that. I'm like, bro, like you said before, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with a team. Like it'd be nothing without the warehouse guys we have, the social media team we have, like all of that. So like it's definitely I know there's people that only know me or only know Reese or only know Ryan. They're like, Ryan's business, Reese's business, Jarrod. I'm like, it's a family. It's awesome. So
that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it's just been like, we've had no funding, nothing, like just like you asked before, what my mantra is, just having a crack. Like you just running your head into the wall until you fucking find a spot that it breaks through. pretty much. So
I wonder, like this, it'll interest me to hear your answer here.
yeah,
Whenever you start anything in life, there is a fantasy that you hold within your head as to how it could look or how it will look.
yeah,
And I think that while sometimes parts of those fantasies or visualizations are actualized and come to life and look pretty similar to what you expected, I don't think you ever visualize like you on a plane, jet lagged, trying to sell a product to someone and getting knocked back and like having all of these challenges.
yeah.
Like how much of it looks like the fantasy that you likely created and how much of it is just a bunch of other shit that you've learned to love the process of.
I think you have this like this vision of like what it will become, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna make it this. I'm gonna like it's gonna be this. It's like you just gotta be careful what you wish for, because like the good parts, like if you might get everything you want, but everything you want has an other side. Like regardless, this like even 2 or 3 years ago, it was like, oh, our goal is to get to here. Like if we get to here, it will be like this much sales a month. It'll be this. If we get to here, it'll be this. And then you get there and you're like, we still feel like we're in the same spot. It's like growing up. Like you still feel like a kid, but now I just got responsibilities. Now I just got bigger bills to pay. And then you had like the issues that come up, at bigger issues. And then you have things you didn't even think about that are like, none of it's bad. Like it's all part of the process. It's all like, we love it all, but it's like, yeah, it's always, it's never as sexy as it looks or you think it's going to be. Never.
I think that's such a good point because, you know, we touched on a guy like George Heaton before. You can watch the videos.
The amount of shit that guy would go through, bro. Like
100%.
You watch his, oh yeah, cool, he's running. Yeah, he's doing this. Oh, cool, campaign shoot. You're like, you don't, he's not filming the shit that goes wrong.
No.
He's not
because
filming.
people don't want to watch him sitting in the office typing emails for fucking 4 hours and trying to solve a problem. Like, that's not entertaining.
No.
You know, and I think it's why, for me...
It's the same shit. No one's going to know you had a fight with your girlfriend on your Instagram. Like,
for sure.
You know, some people post that, but you don't post that. I haven't seen that from you. So,
no.
Yeah, you know...
Well, I'm lucky we don't fight. We're pretty good.
Oh, sweet.
But she probably doesn't... Soph doesn't post the stuff where she's sick of me just annoying the shit out of her at home.
Brad hasn't shut up again.
Yeah. It's been 3 days. He's still talking.
Been 3 days. Yeah.
But it's so true because I often think that like that's why the training and the discipline and the foundation outside of the business and outside of what you're trying to build is so important.
Like I said before, it's like I went through that, so what's this? Like, I do this to myself every day, so what's someone doing it to me? Like, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Well, because you listen to... A lot of people listen to podcasts now, a lot of people read books, and I think there's this presumption that when you go in, for a lot of people when they start doing that, and they've got this idea that they want to grow, they want to be better, which is such an amazing thought and like goal to have. Yeah. And they're looking for like the secret to what it's going to be. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to listen to this guy talk about running long and running marathons. Yeah. What's Eliud Kipchoge's secret to being that good? Yeah. And then you kind of like... Yeah, exactly. You just wake up and you get shit done and you slowly but surely get better, and then that goes wrong and you solve it.
Any change you're going to make is going to suck till you earn... Like, I can't remember who I heard talking about this, but they're talking about like confidence and like, I just want to feel confident. Like, you have to earn that. You have to earn confidence. If you want to like wake up and feel like you can do something, you have to wake up and try and do something and get knocked back and get shat on and have everything go wrong and have every reason of like, you need some delusional optimism.
I completely agree. Yeah. You know, it's an interesting thought. I've spoken about it a couple of times on the pod in the last couple of months, but I'm the biggest believer that what you believe hugely influences who you become. Absolutely. And I'm torn by, I heard 2 guys that I listened to with relative consistency speak about this idea that belief is only a product of evidence, and to a lot of degrees it is. But I'm a huge believer in faith. And I think that sometimes where there's no evidence and you want to change the tune, you just have to be a little bit delusional about what's ahead of you. Definitely. But then you've got to obviously couple that with hard work. Yeah. Yeah, it's like you get
you've seen, I think I've seen over the last kind of like 3-4 years, a lot of people talking about like visualizing, manifesting, all that stuff. It's like, yes, in conjunction with the work it's required to get. If you might do the same amount of work as someone, and if one person thinks it's going to fail and the other person thinks it's going to be fantastic and everything is going to go right, the person that's thinking irrationally, optimistically, is going to do better than the person that's, if you both do the same amount of work. But if the person here is thinking everything's going to go right and does none of the work, and the guy here thinking it's going to go wrong and it's all in vain and why am I even doing this, and does the work, he's going to win. Every time. You got to have both.
It's bang on, and I think that we have a little bit of a bad tendency in Australia to be very pessimistic about things.
Absolutely.
Right? And part of it is a little bit unconscious. Like you think about our language as Aussies, and I speak sometimes as bogan as it comes, you know, like I've got a bit of bogan slang. Yeah. And, you know, someone says, "Oh, how are you, mate?" "Not bad."
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm actually fantastic, thank you.
Swimmingly.
Yeah.
I'm going swimmingly.
Swimmingly, thank you.
Everything is fine and dandy.
But I think that like it becomes a little bit unconscious that we tend to say those things, and then maybe you start to believe them a little bit. And I often think that I've challenged myself on this. Is there any utility to sometimes being a little bit pessimistic or negative? And I don't believe there is.
Realistic, yes.
Yeah.
You need some kind of realism. Like, you see people take the delusion too far, and you're like, bro, you're actually like, you're in $1 million of debt. You need to wrap this up. Like, you're actively like, there's an element of like, things need to be trending in a certain direction for you to go, this doesn't look like it's going to work, but I'm irrationally optimistic that it will. Or I think I can get here, and I'm delusional. It might be delusional where I'm at now, but I'm going to do the work to get there. And by the time I get there, you'll go, of course he does that. Of course he does that. Look at him. That's what he does. Like, I've done the work to become the person I need to be to get there. But if you're delusional in the sense of, yeah, bro, I'll get there. You know, what are you doing for it? No, I'm going to get there though. You know, that's where a little bit of realism comes in, and you go, hey, bro, if you don't get off your ass, nothing's going to happen. And you're going to be sitting here in 10 years going, oh, why'd that guy get there?
I had a bit of a realization in my own life through those like early periods of change in 2020, 2021, where I was like, I'm going to be the biggest podcaster in the country. I'm going to have the biggest show. Yeah. It's going to be the best. Rogan's going to come knocking on my door for an interview.
Spotify's going to pay me 150 mil. Yeah.
It's bound to happen, right?
Yeah.
And I put in some work.
Yeah.
But I'd quit my job. I had a mortgage. I had all these things that required a level of consistency. Yeah. A level of consistency and commitment from me, in which I was kind of abusing. Yeah. You know, I was being a little bit. In fact, I was being quite a lot lazy. Yeah. In my approach to life, and making out I didn't have time for things. And some of it was this optimism and this absolute belief that I can make these things happen, which I still believe to this day. Yeah. But I'm so much better now at pulling the other pieces of the puzzle together and saying that this is not just a one-prong approach. Like,
well, like you put it, there's a difference between like burn the boats, like more for that, but like don't burn the boats if you got no swords, bro. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, equip yourself for the journey ahead, then burn the boats.
Yeah, don't burn the boats while you're still on them.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Bro, you're in the middle of the ocean.
You know? Yeah, we're not there yet, man. Burn the boat. No, not yet.
Yeah. What's he doing? Yeah. Why's he got a lighter?
Hang on a second. Put that down.
We're in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah, who gave Jim the lighter?
Yeah. It's so true. And I think just like reminding yourself that it doesn't have to work out the way that you've seen it working out in your head. No. There's many ways, there's many roads that lead to Rome, as they say.
1,000 ways to skin a cat.
Yeah. And I've majorly realised that. And I think the moment that you accept that, like I think I mentioned it to you when we ran down in Melbourne, that I was just about to go back and start selling houses.
Yeah, that was just when you were like, next week, when I get back, I'm back it's my first day. Yeah. I was like, sweet, bro.
And the interesting thing was, like, I tried to do a bit of project work during the last couple of years and like hated it. Yeah. Hated it. And I think a big part of it was like this mindset of like and almost I'd convinced myself that it was a step back in the direction I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But this time, like going, okay, I want to be a dad. I want to be able to have some kids. I want to be able to marry my partner and do all these things. Like I know why I'm doing it. Yeah. But I'm also not going to give up on wanting to grow the podcast and continue to speak. Yeah. And so here's the way I'm going to do it, and here's what the plan looks like. And all right, I'm going to attack this with energy, with great perspective, with a heap of purpose. Yeah. I'm fucking loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Man, I'm enjoying it.
You still got that irrational, like we always talk about it, like me, Reese and Ryan through this, we call it reality filter. Everything goes through a reality filter in that, like, especially like it mainly comes up with like new product design where we're like, put this product together and you're like, that's exactly what we want. Like we make products that we want to use. And then it's like, no one's going to buy that, bro. Or that particular formula, we can't get to taste good. And if it doesn't taste good, no one's going to buy it. Or there's no demand for that particular product. So everything kind of goes through this reality filter of you're delusionally optimistic, this is the best product in the world, to then we're out of business if we do this. So it's the same thing. It's like you still like irrationally optimistic about like this kid from Wollongong that's going to be the best podcaster in the world. Like, but put it through the reality filter and be like, still got to eat. Can't be eating frozen veggies and chicken tendies all the time.
No, because then I feel like shit when I podcast.
Yeah.
And now I'm not performing at my best, and now I'm not exercising because I don't feel good. Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm not the man I wanted to be in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And you want to sit here and have a conversation with someone as the man you want to be, or on the way to the man you want to be. Yeah. You don't want to watch, especially podcasts. That's out there forever. You go back and watch that in 5 years' time when you are the man you want to be, and you go, what was I thinking? Yeah. Who is that guy?
Who's that fella?
Yeah.
What the fuck did I have dyed left imprint hair in that video?
I wasn't going to bring that
up.
We've
all been there.
I wasn't going to bring that
up.
Have
we all been there? Maybe just me.
I don't have any hair. Maybe I'll do my moustache.
Yeah, maybe just me.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of these goals that are coming up. Like you're obviously excited for some of the races and throwing your full energy towards it. Yeah. 60Ks in Slovenia. Yeah. Which would be sick.
So that's 6 weeks away. And then 100 is 9 weeks. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been good to, like, even doing it with Dean, it's been, like, because, well, I was going to do the 50 originally at UTA. And then I was kind of, like, looking at tickets, and I was like, oh, they're all sold out. And I was like, oh, the 22 sold out. And then I was looking, I was like, 100 still got tickets.
Of course 100 isn't it?
No shit. Yeah. And then I was like, went downstairs and was like, we're at work, and I was like, Dean, do you want to do UTA 100? He's like, no. I was like, come on. He's like, just looked at me, he goes, I feel sick. And I was like, I do a little bit too, but do you want to do it? And he's like, let me think about it. And then that afternoon he was like, let's do it. I was like, all right, sweet. So, like, I don't know. I'm looking forward to pushing myself. Like, even just the prep of it, like, the journey there has been awesome. Like, learned a lot about myself, all that stuff. So, very much looking forward to doing the race. Apparently, I've never run like a ultra before, so apparently it gets pretty delusional and you get pretty out of it. So, it should be fun.
Yeah, I've never run far enough to get to that point.
Yeah.
But I felt like I'm close. Felt like I'm close.
Yeah.
The 50 tested me.
Yeah.
And that was on flat ground.
Yeah.
I think it was like maybe 300 metres of elevation.
Yeah.
God bless Wollongong. And I was getting to the point at the end of it where like, oh, okay, I'm really not liking myself right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a bit of head noise.
But you need that. You need that to grow, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so the 100 will be good. I'm looking forward to that. And then I really want to do, this is on record now, so I want to do the 160 in Cozzy that's in November. So
yeah, that's a big event.
I was sitting there saying, like, I'll see how the 100 goes. I'll see how I feel after that. Like, but I think I'm going to do it. I think
there's a lot to be said for like, and like having the conversation with yourself about failure.
Yeah.
But also like being able to strive towards something that's really lofty because it requires a lot more of yourself than you're currently giving.
Yeah. People are scared to fail. Failure's fine. I've failed so many times. In every area.
Yeah.
You got to.
Haven't we all?
If you're not doing something, you're not pushing it hard enough.
I spoke to Brett Canellan about this, right? So Bretto challenged himself to run 100 in he was going to try and beat the sun. Start at sunrise, finish at sunset.
Yeah.
On the Oxfam trail, starts in sort of like in a west somewhere and finishes out like near the water. And I was like, oh, that's quick. And he's like, to be honest with you, pretty confident I'm not going to reach it, but I'm going to have a crack.
Pretty confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got to a point where like just the middle took a little bit longer than he thought. Really got killed by some of the hills.
Yeah.
Knew he wasn't going to make it. He was like, fuck, I'm a heaps better runner for it.
Yeah.
Heaps better runner for the preparation and the commitment. And I think that like often you fall short of something.
Yeah. Regardless of what happens, there's bits you can take from it.
Bloody oath.
And go, okay, I learned that. I don't know, you see people like talk about like everything happens for a reason. It's like sometimes bad shit just happens, man. It doesn't, the world does not revolve around you. And you're like, you're the reason. Oh yeah, that guy died and everything happens for a reason. You're like, no, he just died, man. But like take what you can from it.
That's how you pick up the pieces.
Yeah. Take what you can from it. Shit happens. You just got to like, you didn't reach your goal. What did I learn? How can I take that into the next one?
What do you think's been the biggest learning for you? Like just as we're wrapping up here, big year.
Yeah.
Big last 12 months. What was the biggest learning through that process?
Shit.
Because while you think of that, I just want to preface that I was literally thinking this week. I've been told for years and years that the one area in which I fail with a podcast, but also my greatest asset is that I have no niche.
Yeah.
Like I'm a fucking odd human being. I'm a strange cat. There's heaps of different shit going on in my life, and I like to dabble in different things and speak to interesting people from all walks.
Absolutely.
And I love that about the pod. Maybe that's even its niche a little bit. But the one thing that I've consistently stayed really passionate about is like wanting to help people figure out what's next after they've been just hit with a fucking chunk of adversity or a major challenge or like they're down and out. Like, what's next? How do you move in the right direction?
Yeah.
Because we've all had to do that a bunch of times in our own life. And I think particularly men, because I see, and I know there's a lot of gals that listen to this podcast, the audience is actually pretty split 50-50 down the middle. But as a guy, I look around now and I go, fuck man, is there enough good male role models for the next generation of kids who are coming through to look to? We're missing something. Yeah. We're missing something. And I'm like, there's a bunch of shit going on in the world, particularly a lot of things for me, like around domestic violence and shit like that, where I'm like, okay, any bloke who hits a woman has had some seriously shit role models in their life. So how is a bloke who doesn't have it figured out, who isn't perfect, who's trying to be better every day, how do we somewhat get people on this podcast that inspire men to be better? And I think there's so many areas of your life in which inspire me to be better. And so I'd love to hear, like, what's that lesson for you this year?
I think, I don't know if it's a lesson or like something I kind of realized, but just kind of, I guess, similar to that realization I had at the funeral, was just kind of like, you need to be the person you 10, 15, to the younger you needed. Like whoever that is for the people, like, because at the end of the day, you can do whatever athletic achievements, you can make whatever money in business, you can like, but at the end of the day, if we lost the internet tomorrow, you couldn't access your bank account, you couldn't do, like, social media got deleted, everyone that was Instagram famous is now not famous anymore. Like, it's like back to that fundamental primal, like, how am I with other people? What impact do I have on the people around me? Like, who am I to my parents, to my friends, to my, like, not my partner because I don't have one, but like, who am I to, like, who am I to the people I'm close with? Like, who do they need me to be, and who do they need in their life? Like, just being the person that, if at 16 I met myself, would I be proud of who I was, and would I would I have been able to help myself in whatever I was going through in a dark period of my life, or when I felt lost and didn't have anything figured out, and just being found guilty of that. So not like trying to project it, but just like if someone tried to find me guilty of being that person, I'm fucked. Yeah, I'm guilty. Like, do you know what I mean?
I get ya.
So just having that, being able to be that person and have I guess increase the net positive in the world, and just going, I'm doing okay. Things in my life are all right. I'm at a point where like I'm at the top of the hierarchy of needs. I'm in self-actualization. Like I'm clutching at straws here to like my basic needs are met. I've got food. I've got friends. I've got like amount of money that I can live. Like life's pretty good. What do I need to do now? I need to become the person that other people need.
Yeah,
and I guess that's like, that comes down to the like before with the whole selfish and unselfish. Like you need to be selfish so you can be selfless. So like put your oxygen mask on before you help the person next to you. Like
yeah, bloody oath.
If I'm useless, if I'm broke, if I'm don't have my shit together, how am I going to help? Because I'm going to need help one day. And if I haven't done my best to build up the people around me or be a positive influence in their lives, how am I going to be able to call on them when I'm down and out? Because it's going to happen. Shit's going to go wrong.
Bloody oath.
I'm at a good point in my life. I'm going to be in a bad point in my life. It's going to get good again. It's going to get bad again. You never know when it's going to happen. But how can I be the best person I can be now to the people around me? What do they need from me? And obviously, like, I'm not out here trying to please everyone, like, obviously. Like, it's not, I'm never going to, like, keep everyone happy. But the people I'm close to, like, how can I best serve them? That's kind of, I guess, lesson-wise, like, it's been, like, focus on that and everything else will kind of follow. Like, my family, how can I be the best son? How can I be the best brother? How can I show my parents that everything they gave me was worth it? How can I show my brothers that, sorry for beating you up, like, do you know what I mean? Like, how can I show my business partners that, like, oh, fuck, I'm glad I'm in business with that guy. Like, how can I show the people I train with that, like, I appreciate their time and, like, I'm on the same mission as you kind of thing. So
yeah, I love that.
That's kind of, I guess, that probably circles back to the mantra, I guess, is just like, just being the person that, because there's people I know that are younger that are going through whatever, that are like, that I see elements of, oh, when I was 20, I was going through that. Like, I'm glad I went through that at the time. I was like, what the fuck is this happening to me? I can help you through that now. I know what helped me. I'm at a stage where I'm very happy with my life. Sure, you might not want my life. You might not want where I'm at, but if you want to at least get yourself out of the hole, this is what I did. Let me show you. Let me show you. I don't even have to tell you. Let me show you through. Hey man, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? What's that you're eating? Why are you running like this? Why are you getting up at this time? Like, so I guess, yeah, the overarching thing is just being that person for people as much as I can be.
I love that. And I seen a clip the other day that I shared it to my story and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Was this clip around a couple of guys talking about the way when you grow up and you become a man, you look at your dad differently. You look at your family differently. And like, I look at my old man, I got a statue, the Hercules statue tattooed on my upper left arm as a symbol of my dad, like this role model that I look up to. And it's framed in a way in which it looks down, like it's looking down to me and I'm looking up to it and admiring it. And I think about that character, especially as I'm now like actively planning with Soph, we want to start a family and I'm going to be a dad. And I'm like watching that clip and just thinking, something I've been thinking over the course of the last couple of months is like, what kind of dad am I going to be? But not what kind of dad do I think I am? What kind of dad are my kids going to say that I was? Or that I am? And like, what do I need to do to become that man? Because be ready for that. Because
you can't just decide that. It's the same thing with that. You can have that delusional optimism. Oh, when I become this, I'm going to break the cycle and whatever. I had a great childhood. My dad did nothing wrong. but you get people that are like, oh, whatever my dad did to me, I'm not going to pass that on to my kids. I'm like, I can see you actively passing it off to your friend group and your partner and everything right now.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's going to be different when I have kids? No,
It's not.
it's going to be worse.
Yeah, because that's going to be a lot of pressure that you're not ready for.
Yeah.
And so I think, to come like full circle, like you said, when I think about how can I prepare for that without a kid, train fucking hard, have some discipline, respect myself when I look in the mirror, treat my partner with love and care, like be there for my family when they need them. When someone asks me for help, but it's not in my best interest, but I know it's the right thing to do, help them out. Like, be that kind of guy now.
Well, and it's like, would you, like I said before, would you be found guilty of being that person? Not just like, yeah, man, I'm trying my best, I'm trying to be a good person. You're like, no, you're not. Yeah. You're still doing this, you're still doing that.
You can lie to other people, but you can't lie to yourself.
You post this on your story, post that on, I'm trying to be this, I'm trying, like, look at me doing this, look at me doing that. You're like, where's the photos of your bender? Like, yeah. But like, would you be found guilty of being that? Like, if you had to try and hide, I'm trying to become this person, and someone went, no, I can see here and here, and you're like, got me. Yep. That's it.
Yeah. Become the man.
Got to do it, man.
Oi, pleasure.
Appreciate it, bro.
Cheers.
Pleasure.